Did you set the AI?
Not yet. Thanks for putting that on the recording.
You're welcome.
No, I don't do the AI companion. I do the start summary thing. So I'm doing that now. So it doesn't put the recording in there. So here we are at the Crystal Clear Point Studios with Miles of Smiles events. And I just noticed something about the video, Matthew Pierce.
Yes.
Oh,
At the end, I'm looking all sassy and cute, putting my hat on, and you're looking like, what the hell is she doing?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, like, oh my gosh,
I was like,
he-
okay,
he's dissing
whatever.
me. He's dissing me. He's dissing me on my own show. What the hell?
Nah, I wouldn't do that to you.
I just thought that was cute. I was like, what the heck? So
Well,
anyway,
that's what people do when you start putting on your hats. They go, "What are you
What?
doing?"
oh my God. Anyway, um, we are Lou Ann Morris with Herbal Lou, Apothecary, and Dr. Matthew Pierce. And I don't know what all he's with. He's with Metaphysical Events. He's starting his online directory and school courses. So if y'all have something to teach, you need to call him. If you have website issues, he is the guru master wizard of online services. And then there's me.
Yeah,
Me.
you don't do anything, right?
I don't do anything.
No,
But he
what, you
has.
don't help like 20 businesses or something like that? I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah.
I do whatever I do whatever the hell I want to when I want to that amuses me or makes me money or both.
There you
So
go.
There
there
you
you
go.
go. There you go. And today we're going to do something. I don't know if it's going to be fun, but I think it will be mind provoking, don't you? We're going to talk
Yes,
about Big Brother.
yes,
Is
that's
the
what I think.
government watching us? And if they are, why? So, do you know where the term Big Brother is watching you comes from? I
Isn't
do.
that 1984?
Yes, yes, it's from George Orwell's 1984.
Yeah.
He's
Okay.
the one that coined that. Big Brother is watching you.
Mhm.
So, and how did they watch them in 1984? Because I'm going to go down the rabbit hole with this thing. They had
I don't-
screens in everybody's homes and
Mhm.
businesses, and they would just, be tuned in and watching them. Alexa, hmm.
Uh,
You don't have to see what they're doing to know
No.
what they're doing.
yes,
So we have Alexa, we have Amazon Dot. Is it Amazon Dot?
yeah.
Yeah.
Google.
Yeah. How many times have you done a search on the internet and all of a sudden all these ads pop up about what you're
Yeah,
doing, you
Well, your
know?
phone is listening to you all the time too. I mean, if you can say, "Hey Siri," and it will respond to you, she's listening.
Siri,
And so,
Bixby, Amazon, Google Assistant, all of them. I've got mine programmed to say, yes, my queen.
well, there's also one on the Android called Bixby.
yep.
Yeah, Bixby. I have that on there too. So now if I could just get my children to listen to me as well, that would be
Good luck with
awesome.
that one.
Yeah. So, do y'all know when the government started gathering information on people?
1953.
You're right. And but what were they doing before that? That was the official kickoff. But what were they do? What started it?
Uh,
Y'all didn't know it was going to be a test, did you?
no, I thought I knew that.
It started after World War One. They
Mm.
started gathering information on other countries. We did, and other countries started gathering information on us. After World War One, it escalated after World War Two, and then it really escalated during the Cold War. That's when
Yeah.
it
Uh,
really, and that's
they
where
did
James
re
Bond came from.
they did remote viewing. That was early.
Yeah.
They,
Uh-huh. And what's interesting to me, and we won't go off the rabbit hole with this unless y'all want to, is that even Nazi Germany, Hitler was really intrigued by the metaphysical, and they
Oh
were
yeah.
trying to use psychics to be able to channel and to also astral project to find out what other people and what other countries were up to and things like that. And they were doing tons and tons and tons of experiments on that. So guess who followed in their footsteps?
oh, let's see, the United States.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
Well,
yeah.
you know the CIA is the one that made it kind of mainstream. Alan Dulles, who was appointed in 1953.
You know what else the FBI made mainstream? Drag, because J. Edgar Hoover used to dress in drag. Such a
That was
contradiction.
yeah, that was his proclivity.
I love that. And now they're saying, going down the rabbit hole even further. Now they're saying, there was the lavender years where they were investigating people for homosexuality during McCarthyism, and now they're saying that McCarthy was a closet homosexual.
Mhm.
Takes one to know one.
Yeah, okay.
No, people don't want to admit that Lincoln was. So
Really? I hadn't heard that. Tell me.
they have letters. They have letters from Lincoln to his lover. I mean, there's actually letters that said that he would rather share his bed with this gentleman than Martha.
Well, no wonder she was depressed.
So yeah,
Oh my,
but
wow.
he was also very psychic. He was also very intuitive, to the point where, he kind of had like premonitions, and prophesied. Okay. And Martha, I mean, he even said in these letters that Martha didn't understand that, but this gentleman that he was spending all of his time with actually understood what those things were meant. And so a lot of the policies that he made came from discussions with his lover, not with Martha.
Okay, so just to play devil's advocate, because I like doing that, could the phrase "I would rather share my bed with you than her," could that have just been an extreme example and not sexual?
No, the letters were extremely sexual. So, I mean, I
Were
don't
they?
think there
Okay.
was any gray area in like saying, that, oh, well, he just liked being with him and like, sleeping over and no.
So
So where are
go-
these letters and why don't we know about them?
Oh, they're out there. I mean, you can do an internet search and you can find these letters. I mean, so it's just that in the mainstream, people don't want to know that like one of our presidents was actually like out of the closet. It was well known. It was well known that Lincoln was, was at least bisexual.
well, I would like to know these things because I think it makes them more human and it makes them
Hmm.
more believable and gathers more empathy of what they gave up. And because like, okay, so now I'm going to go down another rabbit hole. So, like, there's a group of people that believe that Jesus married Mary of Magdala and that they had a child, and that part of what the Shriners and the Masons' job was when they were protecting the holy relics, that they were actually protecting Jesus' family.
But
Okay.
yeah.
And, and people just have a shit fit over that. And to me, that makes his ministry even more deep because yes, he lived as a man, but he also lived as a man that had all of the advantages of living in the flesh, and he gave up his life, his family, his descendants, all for that. To me, that makes it a more powerful story. It doesn't detract from the ministry. So again, I don't get where people go off these deep ends with, oh my God, that's terrible.
Well, how could you? I mean, okay, we're off subject.
No, actually,
Really?
but I think we're actually on subject because here's the thing: part of the control that the government and our governments all over. I mean, it's leaving these stories out. It's like taking and burying these so they can control the narrative. So I don't
Yeah.
think that we're off subject in any way, shape, or form because we have examples, specific examples now, of how the government has like, kind of like, swayed our thinking, to make sure that we're still under their control.
Right. I
So,
agree. I agree. I agree. So after World War II, I did a little reading on this before we logged in. We had such actions called the Black Chamber and Project Shamrock that different countries were putting together and collaborating on. And most of the English speaking countries were working together to investigate what was going on the other side of the continent and stuff like that. And the NSA came into being during the Cold War. Most people don't realize how old it is. And then it really, really revved up during the civil rights efforts because they were wanting to know what Martin Luther King was doing and all the people were leading these riots and, you know, what was going on at Kent State and all these other things. And so, the collaboration between all of the English speaking countries actually became official in 1955. And Truman is the one that established the NSA. But most people did not know this until a few years ago because all of that was classified memos and it wasn't released to the public. So,
And they had another project called MK Ultra through the
yeah.
CIA.
Yeah. So I mean, and what's really funny is that if you really dig deep, the NCIA will be investigating the CIA to see if there's been any infiltrations. The CIA is investigating the FBI to make sure that they're following the straight and narrow. So they don't even trust each other. That's what's
No.
hilarious. Okay. So you know, what I relate this to as a private investigator, and this has cracked me up for years. I go to a party or I go to a social event and someone will introduce me and go, "Oh, and Deborah's a private investigator." I cannot tell you how many times I go, "Oh, are you here to investigate me?" And I'm like, "No,
Mhm.
idiot. If I was here to investigate you, the last thing you would know is I was here or that I'm a private investigator." But
Right.
but now what you planted the seed in my head is that what are you doing or what have you done that warrants investigation? So now I am going to go home and look you up. You know? So the big question is that, all right, I don't think it's really hard to investigate anybody anymore.
Not with
Why?
social media.
Why? Why would they investigate me? Why would they investigate you? Who gives a rat's ass what we're doing? You know? And how many people do you have to have working behind the scenes to investigate people?
Mhm.
Oh, Matthew, this is a great segue into what you want to talk about. You can't do it with humans, but maybe with algorithms and
Mhm.
AI, you can.
Absolutely.
Well,
So,
yesterday when I attended that focus group, they are picking our brains to see what packaging and what descriptions we are drawn to.
it's called marketing, or is it?
Yes, it is. But isn't that related to I know how to control people through what other
Yeah.
people have told me?
Well, I mean, and it kind of does flow into kind of what I wanted to talk about because that market research that people do, it used to be that they just like did a marketing folder that compiled all of the data that was collected from focus groups and so on. And it was like, okay, so our message should be tailored, XYZ because of all these interviews.
Hmm.
Now it's like you go in, they record it, they feed it into an algorithm through the
Hmm.
AI, and the AI on the other end spits out, says, okay, well, the packaging should look like this. It should include XYZ.
Yeah.
The keywords or the buzzwords that you need to focus on are this, and this. So I mean, it's going that direction, but that's advertising. I'm sure that the government does some of the same things with the conversations we have or the stuff we post online or what have you to do profiling.
Yeah.
So
And profiling is wrong. That's a line from
well,
Ron White's comedy show.
yeah, profiling is wrong.
Well, and I was reading an article through Scientific American about mind control, and they're saying that the ability to control electrical activity in the brain has the potential to treat brain disorders or,
Yes.
you know,
Well, they're
neurological
already doing that to
psychiatric.
replace electric shock. They're already doing a form of that.
Correct.
So,
Because
and they also have prototypes out there for depression.
electrical shock was not targeted enough
Mhm.
and had a tendency for you to lose big chunks of your memory.
It was torture. Let's just be honest about it. It was a form of torture under the guise of being a medical assistant.
Hmm.
So, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, if anytime you got to put a piece of leather between my teeth to keep me from biting my tongue off, I believe you're torturing me, you know?
Yeah, that is true.
So,
But I think some people they had such tumultuous things going on in their brain, they were willing to risk that.
yeah, and I can understand that. I mean, when you're at your ropes end because of depression or hallucinations or whatever, oftentimes you're willing to try whatever, and that's why snake oil salesmen have been so prevalent over the centuries. Got mama's elixir, one sip, and you can have babies and kick up your feet and go to the moon.
Okay, and also in that article, and this will make Matthew a little perturbed.
Uh-oh.
They talked about mind control, and there was a neurologist or neuropsychologist, Robert Heath.
Mhm.
Do you know about him?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't recall right
I
now at the
don't.
moment.
He worked at Tulane University in the 70s, and he was going to cure a homosexual man
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
stimulating his brain.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, I mean, we've been trying to control people's minds for quite some time.
Well,
Well, I mean, he wasn't the first one. Okay. I mean,
Right.
we know Kellogg cereal, right? Kellogg cereal.
yes.
Do you know what it was
Yes.
created for? Do you know what
I
it was created
forget.
for?
I
No.
forget. I did
To
used to
curb
know.
masturbation.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And he was a pervert. Have you ever watched
Mhm.
that movie with Matthew Broderick in it about Kellogg and stuff? And everybody would go to this big mansion that he had, and he would feed them all the cereal and different things. And he was trying to curb masturbation and then fix diarrhea and
Yep.
constipation. And he was all about enemas and I mean, and he was the precursor in some ways to even free love, because sex had a purpose, but it had to be done this way. And
Yep.
he was a real pervert.
I
Yeah,
knew none of that.
but I mean, inside of that whole story, I mean, that creating of the Kellogg's brand and so on and so forth, it was like kind of the precursor to the Food and Drug Administration. It was
Oh,
like where we got a lot of our laws about what can go in food and what cannot go in food. Okay. Because Kellogg actually started this big movement saying that, oh, well, we need to start formulating food in order to make sure that we have control.
yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, and there's a lot of things that we have in our lives today that we think are normal, like, pharmaceutical testing and drug controls, and even our drug laws. I mean, when you think about less than 100 years ago, cocaine and all that was not illegal. Or
Right.
it was, I mean, and I always like hearing the stories about how Coca-Cola used to have real Coke in it. That's where the name
Mhm.
came from.
Yes.
And that's why it was so peppy. Ooh, drink a Coke and you'll be peppy. Things like that.
Well, yeah, they
And
weren't after the caffeine.
no, no. And so, how long is it going to take for they outlaw caffeine for the same reason? So they can regulate it, and you have to have a prescription to get your caffeine fix. I'm surprised they didn't do that with nicotine, actually. Well, they kind of did with the gum,
Mhm.
with the nicotine gum. But seriously, they really missed the boat by not legalizing nicotine as a legal drug and
Do
writing
not give
scripts.
them that idea.
I'm sure they've had it.
They probably had it. Yeah.
I'm not that smart. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah,
That's
but
fast.
I mean, look at the bans that other nations have on the books as far as the chemicals that we think are okay,
Like
you
red
know, and
dye,
yeah, we're like
sugar.
red dye. I mean, that's there are certain things that other nations will not like even consider because they know that it's deadly,
I was
you
reading
know.
about a pesticide today called genoxin,
Yeah, genoxin.
and
I
there are tons and tons of countries that won't even allow it in the country,
Mhm.
but we continue to use it here. And
And
it's
there's a purpose for it. If you look behind it, it was like it does something. It like creates an opportunity for something. And that's the same way that you look at these different chemicals that Europe has banned. Okay, they realized that it was doing something. It was doing something to society. And why does the United States not ban some of this stuff? Well, I think that money is one of the reasons. But number two is control. I think that they want to elicit control over certain things. And that's how we think about our food, how we think about our drugs, how we think about our lives and how we live our lives and where we're spending our money. So I think everything goes into some sort of mind control or at
well,
least
Yeah, go
Well, let
ahead.
me go out on a limb here. I used to work at it's the only real job I've had. I've been self-employed since I left there. I worked at a home improvement store called Homer's Home Improvement. Okay. And they were out of California. They were big in California and Texas. And at one time I was the manager of the garden area, which was a big deal. And we sold, the chemicals, the fertilizers and all that. And I can't tell you how many times bottles of pesticide were broken open, and we didn't have any regulations in the store or anything like that. And you could smell that stuff through the entire store when it broke. That's how strong it was. And we're out there literally mopping it up with our hands and paper towels. And I am firmly convinced that that created fibromyalgia in my body. I'm convinced of that. Absolutely.
Well, there's a couple suing this company that makes it because all of a sudden has Parkinson's.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
You were supposed to use gloves, cover yourself somehow, like and use a respirator if you're using this pesticide.
we should have been using gloves, the respirators, the whole thing, and not. And here's the thing: we would use mops that were used to clean up messes throughout the store. Who knows how often those damn mops were even cleaned or the heads were changed out? So that stuff is going through the store over and over and over again. You know, and so I think I made my point.
Yes.
I think I made my
But there is another side to mind control.
sex.
No, it's
Oh.
about a brain to computer contact where you control equipment or you control, in this particular one I was reading about, it was drones.
Yeah.
Well, what about Stephen Hawking's? What wasn't he able to speak because he was able to control that with his mind? I mean, I'm not sure I understand the science behind that, but isn't that how he managed his chair and was able to speak because they were able to connect his brain to certain equipment? Isn't that right, Matthew?
Well, I mean, those were more the synapses and the connections like on a exterior of the body, not necessarily directly into the brain. Now, they are doing experiments where there is direct brain connection into, a computer. And so it can actually take and create the impulses that's needed. I mean, I was watching a show the other day that, I mean, actually the guy had a pair of glasses. And essentially those glasses were hooked into, kind of like a little implant on the side of his, I mean, he could like take and translate 14 different languages and it would come up on the, across the screen on his glasses, but he could also control the computer so people could actually see the output of what he was thinking.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, I
One of
mean,
these
it's,
articles, yeah, one of these articles was talking about they hooked a guy up that could not control his arms,
mhm.
and he was eventually able to control his arms again.
Wow. Yeah, not everything's dark, but there anything good out there you're able to abuse. Anything. Um, I got hit in the face broadside several times the past couple of weeks. I'm a master in neuro-linguistic programming, and it's the art of communication, and words are so powerful. So being able to know how to pick your words and how to put sentences together, I mean, that's why books are so wonderful. People understood how to tell a story well. And that's what NLP is meant to be. It was the study of excellent communication. And I have had a lot of people through the years say, "Oh, NLP is evil because it teaches you how to manipulate people." Well, the minute you open your mouth, you're manipulating somebody because you're
Yeah.
trying to communicate an idea and get what you want. All right. So manipulation is not a bad thing. Manipulation for ill intent is a bad thing.
Mhm.
And what I perceived in many situations recently is people using NLP with a lack of integrity and with intent for their purposes only and not for the intent of good for the group or for the person they were communicating with. And it actually turned my stomach. It really
Mhm.
did. It turned my stomach. And so
But
everything goes back to where's the morals, where's the ethics, and where's the intent, and who gets to make that decision on what those are?
Were they using it knowingly?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Because I think what happens is that when you communicate, even if you're excellent at communication, your true character and nature are exposed.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I'm a rough talker and I'm blunt, but I think people that truly listen to me communicate know that I don't have ill will. I have passion, I have frustration, but I really want for the good of people around me. I think that's what I'm projecting. I think that's what people see. That's my intent. I hope that's what's happening, you know? And so when you are saying things that you know are deliberately going to trigger certain responses, and it's not for the improvement or the healing of that person, I think you're now out of an integrity. That's my thoughts. And I saw a lot of that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, here's the thing. I believe that any system that we've created, like for example, NLP or whatever, can be weaponized. I think that, it can be taken advantage of by people that, aren't so above board. And you look at a lot of the systems that are out there, or even Tony Robbins has been accused of mind control.
Oh, yeah.
You go to his seminars and you hear amazing stories of these people that are having breakthroughs in their life, but then you have this like subsection of them that is like, well, he was just trying to control me to get my money, and so, hey, is that the case? Well, I don't know. I'm not Tony Robbins, but I know that there's a lot of people that he's helped, and I know that there's a lot of people that blame him for all the money they've lost. So I think any system, can be, kind of made
You,
evil, so to speak.
well, when you have a public speaker or a celebrity that depends on bringing large groups of people to them, say like Tony Robbins or other people that I can name, but I won't because they're very litigious. You know, and you have people that are the same groups of people that follow this person around over and over and over. You have to ask yourself, are you really that great a speaker? Are you really that great a teacher? Or are you just manipulating the hell out of these people for their
Yeah.
money? You know, because if you can't teach the basic ideas and concepts to someone in 2 or 3 or 4 sessions or seminars, and these people are coming back for 10, 15, 20 seminars, where's the disconnect here? Where's the break? And whose intent is being served?
And I think that's the key right there, is whose intent is being served, you know.
Exactly.
And if I think government, I mean, that right there, I mean, like to me, whose intent is being served? What does the government want from us? What does the government, really, really require from us? Well, a lot of times it's money. Um, I know that, I mean, a lot of people have said, well, there's a cure for cancer, but they're not going to take and they're not going to release that because right now it's making pharmaceutical companies and, those types of companies billions of dollars a year. You know, same way with like there's other diseases out there that, I know that there are, cures out there, but they're not going to put them to the general public because it would ruin some of the pharmaceutical companies. Well, the
And who gets to
pharmaceutical
make these
companies,
decisions, though? That's what gets me. You know, okay, now let's go down another rabbit hole. Conspiracy theories. Who's really making the decisions? You know, the Rothschilds, all of the extended families over generations that have controlled the money. You know, are they making the decisions? You know, there were the ideas that where did Obama come from? He was a nobody senator, and all of a sudden he's projected into the presidency. You know, how, why, how did that happen? And then we have Trump. How the hell did that happen? You know, just on so many levels. Who's making these decisions? And I think it's more than just money. I do, because I think there's a lot of people that are billionaires that aren't making decisions, or are they? You know, and I'm naturally suspicious of money. I have realized that over the years. It was ingrained in me that money could corrupt. through my family
Yeah.
upbringing and stuff. And it was also ingrained in me, I think it's part of our generation as well, but I think also my family, that we could have a bombing in this country and be running for our lives at any moment. And I realized the other day, I have always had an escape route on how to get out of Dallas if I need to, and have since I was a teenager, how I could get through back roads and stuff to get out of here. And now I'm at a place going, why would you want to? It's just time to let it go. Except I would want to help my grandchild to survive.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm even thinking like this kind of blows me out of the water. It's shocking to me that that's even a thought process. But I think that we have manipulation on both sides of the fence because people are fearful. So we have the fear-based stuff, and then we have the power stuff that wants to direct us through their power. But who is truly in charge? That's the answer I want. Who's in charge? Who's in
Groups of
charge?
people, I don't think it can be just one person.
No. I don't believe it either. I don't think it is just one person. I think that they're, you know, going down the conspiracy theories. I think that there are organizations that, and I always look at the narrative. I always look at like, what's the conversation around this? Okay, where's the popular idea about this? Okay, I mean, and we saw it so clearly inside of COVID. Okay, it's like, I mean, and Luann, hopefully you'll agree with me on this. You know, when I got COVID, my go-to was elderberries. It was elderberries and vitamin D. Okay. It got like, I mean, it took the COVID symptoms and just like completely put them out the window. Okay. My father, okay, when he got COVID, okay, it was ivermectin. And it did nothing for him. But who put that narrative out there? Okay. And ivermectin, the companies that produced that, okay, raised the price of a single pill from $3 to $47.
Well, let's even go back to the basics.
Yeah.
When COVID first came out, it was free to get a
Mhm.
vaccine. Now,
Yep.
what is it, $108? And they're still pushing. You go get those new vaccines, but now we have to pay for them. How come we didn't have to pay for them before? You know,
Yeah.
but again, it showed just how easily you could isolate the masses and separate them from their support groups and their support systems and put them in the homes and keep them there. Now, I don't care what you think about conspiracies or whatever, but you have to agree that that was proven, regardless
yeah.
if
Yeah,
it was
that happened.
intentional or not.
And
So,
it also sparked panic everywhere. I took pictures of shelves in the grocery store that were empty.
Mhm.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you know, and they're still saying, here's what gets me. They're still saying that COVID is rampant, that we still have tons of cases, that people are still in the hospital, but nobody's acting like anything's going on. And you do still occasionally see people wearing masks, but we saw people wearing masks before COVID, especially in the Asian groups where they have such close proximity to each other. And they were used to doing that when they lived overseas, and they just carried that habit to here as well.
Right.
So, you know, indoctrination, once again, manipulation, brainwashing. Do they mean something different, or do they all mean the same thing?
Well, there's another component I thought of, lobbyists or they're lobbying our senators and representatives to keep their constituents, whoever hires them, uh, like Big Pharma.
Yeah.
Well, let's just be honest. How hard is it to lobby with our political system? We have some of the dumbest people
Believe that.
making major decisions for major groups of people. And you're like, what qualifies you? Just because someone put your name on the ballot, what qualifies you? And they'll say, well, we get expert surveys and blah, blah, blah. Do they? Do they? You
Mm.
know, how do they qualify that? So, I mean, the whole thing's kind of terrifying when you think about it. It
Well,
really is.
anybody that has greed and accepts the money has the potential to do things that are not in our best interest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and so now I'm reading articles coming out with a doctor who has served at the White House saying that Biden is not capable of running another presidency, that he was barely able when he was first elected, and they are taking samples of his handwriting analysis, yay, and showing where he is deteriorating mentally because of his age. And I'm not seeing this on any major newspaper pages or in the news, but it is on some reputable news sites, but they don't get a lot of publicity. So does that surprise anybody? No, not
No,
me.
no,
know,
because they control the narrative. If they're controlling the narrative, I mean, they'll tell you what you can say and what you can't say. You know?
So I don't agree with Trump using the term fake news all the time, but I do believe that news can be covered up.
Oh yeah.
well, I wish he would just call it what it really means. Fake news is just gossip. Let's just call it gossip. We are a country that makes major life decisions based upon gossip. Seriously.
Well, even today, for our topic, I didn't want to just go anywhere. I went to Scientific American and some of the other places, went to read about mind control, not, the Onion or whatever.
Exactly. No, yeah, absolutely. Why would you go to the Onion to, get any kind of like facts? But still, that's what people do. They read it as like this is fact. I mean,
Yeah.
literally so tying it into that, my father reads the Mother Earth News, okay? And that's the magazine. That is the magazine that said ivermectin was the cure for COVID.
I never
Well,
even
they-
heard of Mother Earth News. What
Oh,
is
it's been
that?
around forever.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I
But
read all the European newspapers. It's really funny to me to go to the European newspapers to read our news. And I have found that I'm able to get better and more accurate information from the European newspapers than I do our own.
I believe
That's
that.
kind of sad.
Yeah.
But the other
Because
thing is that
someone
they're going to tell
controls
the
the
truth because they want to make us look bad. Yeah.
Because someone is controlling the information.
That's right. Controlling the narrative. And honestly, I mean, all of that turns into when we're talking mind control, okay, it is about the narrative. I mean, you can convince someone, it's called brainwashing. I mean, you can convince someone that, they have any of the cults. Look at any of the cults. They do the same. I mean, they control the narrative. And when they control the narrative, you have like complete and total allegiance to them. You have, their thoughts, their ideas, and you just go along with it. Okay. And I think that a lot of people in the United States have bought into the narrative of like who we are as a nation and, what's going on. I mean, I don't like talking politics, but have friends that have bought into the whole like that Biden should not be in office and that Trump should be in office right now. And actually, Trump actually is in office and he's just pulling the strings.
Oh my
So,
God.
so I mean, it's a narrative, and as long as you perpetuate the narrative and you have some like facts, people behind it, people get mind control. They're definitely just like okay.
Well, the biggest example of mind control is that this country is convinced we only have two options for president, Trump and Biden. How is that possible in millions and millions of people that there are only two people that this country is willing to look at as options for presidency? How is that possible? I mean, no one's getting any publicity or any airtime or anything else in regards to this question except Trump and Biden. Now, who made that decision?
I don't know because
I want to know. I want to know.
There are other people out there actually running. They have debate.
Can you name them? Can you name them?
No.
No, absolutely
I mean,
not.
I've heard of like, different people that, I mean, but could I name them? I could not, as far as the topics go, they bring up a topic and all of a sudden they disappear. Like it's like you don't even hear them anymore. Like for example, there was the one Republican that was like toting term limits. That they thought that they needed to have term limits inside the House and the Senate. Okay, and then all of a sudden that was just like that person went away.
Well, Ted Cruz brought it up.
Oh, good Lord.
And then all of a sudden he quit talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Some of the scariest politicians in this country are right here in Texas. Let's just be blunt. I mean, we have a large share of the group of scary, scary, scary politicians. You know, they're out of control. There's no check and balance, and they're just doing God knows what.
Well, there is checks and balances, but the thing is that whenever something goes off kilter, they put the person that's in charge of the checks and balances, yeah, under the top control of that checks and balances, even when they're actually being investigated.
Yes.
Well, there's only one way to or I guess there's two. We could do a civil war
Mhm.
and go take back,
Anarchy.
yeah. Or who are you voting for? And why did people vote Ralph Hall back into Congress time and time again until he was 106?
I know.
I mean, if you want to see a difference, vote for somebody else.
Yeah.
Get your 1,000 friends that you have on Facebook and say, you know, we need to throw our support behind so and so because the person in Congress has been there for 20 years. And
Well, you know what else freaks me out is when you get billionaires, and I do mean billionaires, on TV asking for people to donate their money for a cause. And you're like, hey, why don't you just donate half of one of your billions and take care of this for all of us? You know,
Mhm.
and the one that comes to mind the quickest is Oprah on TV asking for donations for Maui. And one of the reasons why I was overly frustrated with that is, number one, she could have fixed it like that. Number two, she was trying to buy up property in Maui, and all of a sudden this fire breaks out, and now she's trying to gather money to help these people. Really? Does this not bother anybody else?
I see there's something fishy about it, but I mean, it's just like, you know,
Did
I
she
also look at,
donate some of her own money?
yeah.
Just fix it, Oprah. What are you going to do with that money? You don't have any children. You know, you're getting on in life. What the hell are you going to do with that money? Do something good with it. You know, fix Maui and change it to Oprah land if you want to, but fix it, you know?
Oprah
All the more reason why I want to go to Hawaii.
I want to see Oprah land. You know, oh, I could really go off on that. I won't though, because people would take it wrong.
No. Well, I mean, and I think that any like kind of like area that you're in, I mean, as far as, you know, my circuit is the LGBTQIA plus communities. Okay. And I've seen so many things that have come up around that, you know. And you know, you have this whole narrative of like, you know, the he, him, you know, she, her, they, them pronouns and so on and so forth. And that never used to be an issue and a problem. But then someone came up with, oh, well, okay, there's a narrative that you aren't being supported and you aren't being recognized. Well, yeah, I get that. Well, there's some very, very distinct groups that are not being recognized. But then all of a sudden the conversation came up and was like, but that's going to cause division in the United States. And it's, you know, all, you know, we're going to, you know, like all of a sudden lose our identity because someone decided that they wanted to be a girl.
What?
Where did
I
that
don't even know.
narrative
I
come
don't
from?
even know what you just said. I got lost in mid-sentence. What?
No, I mean the narrative about pronouns. Okay,
Right.
before it wasn't a problem. Okay, I mean it was like someone wanted to call themselves a she. Okay, it was not a problem, and then all of a sudden something happened. Okay, the narrative changed. Okay, and now people have a problem with calling someone who identifies as a female a female. You know, they want to change their pronouns to she her. All of a sudden it's now a problem, and then all of a sudden that escalates into, okay, well, people that were born biologically male now can no longer go on sports teams. Okay, and this started all the way back with the bathrooms. Okay, it's like
Oh, that was
it
so
was like,
stupid.
you can't go into the bathroom if you're this way. Okay, I have a friend. Okay, he is the biggest burliest guy that you've ever seen in your entire life. Okay, full beard and everything else like that. And if he had to follow the rules, okay, he'd be walking into the woman's restroom and they'd be freaking out.
Oh, I get it. I get it. Well, here's something that freaked me out yesterday. I was reading a letter and advice column, and they were using the pronoun they
Mhm.
to describe the person in the issue instead of he or she. But it reads wrong to us old school English majors. Well, they, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, who is they? Who's in this group of they? And then I realized I'm reading the pronoun incorrectly.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
they is the person that they're having the issue with. And I'm like, well, there's got to be a better solution than they, because that just goes against all English grain, you
And so
know?
they've made up they and them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Is that
All
new?
part of the
Because I haven't
conversation.
heard it either.
All part of the narrative. Okay. When something, if you have a problem with they, them, and you can't figure that out, okay, they made a pronoun up called they, them. And so therefore it's neither he nor she. It's just they or them.
Well, that makes more sense to me than they, because they is a group. They is more than one. They and them is a whole new word. I can go with
Exactly.
that. Yeah,
Exactly.
I can get
But
behind that.
again, I mean, all the problems I think are inside of that narrative. Someone made up a narrative that all of a sudden a male calling themselves she was an issue, you know, and a female calling themselves a he was an issue. Okay. And then it just proliferated.
Well, I think that the whole athletic issue could be solved instead of dividing it by sexes, they divide it by weight, like they do in wrestling and things like that. If you're 0 to 100 pounds, you're in the little weight. And if you're 100 to 175, you're in the middle weight. And do
Mhm.
it that way, you know? And that way you don't have some 300-pound, burly guy crushing a little 150-pound person, whether it's a male or female or a they. So, so if they would just divide it up by weight, that makes a lot more sense to me. So,
Well, but it goes back to control. It goes back to control. So, we'll make up an issue to make sure that we have talking points on how to control things. Okay. Is it really so? I mean, so horrible that, all of a sudden men's bathrooms and women's bathrooms are bad and wrong, to the point where malls are actually redoing their entire structure and making everything family bathrooms?
Well, see, that is a good thing that came out of it, is they designed, because my son doesn't have a problem, but if his mom wanted to take him,
Hmm.
my grandson, then she couldn't. And family
Right.
bathrooms solved that problem.
I
Yeah.
went into the men's bathroom all the time with my son. I'm like, I've seen your penis. I don't give a shit. But I wanted my son to not be humiliated by going into a female bathroom, and that bothered him. But me going with him didn't. So, here we go. So from the time he was like 4 to 8, I went into the men's bathroom, and nobody ever said a word to me, ever. There was never a conflict.
When I went out in public with my mother, I mean, it was like, where were we at? We were like a baseball game or something like that. Okay. And the lines of the women's room was like wrapped around the stadium. Okay. And she's like, no, I'm not waiting. And so she walked over to the men's room and just walked into the men's room and she goes, like, guys, if you don't want me to see it, zip it up, you know?
That's exactly what happened in that show, The Designing Women. They were at a stadium, and Julia led the brigade of all the women going to the men's bathroom because there was not enough bathrooms for the women, and there was a
But
huge
I mean,
line.
there was not a guy in there that was like complaining and going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. No, it was just like, okay.
And frankly, I'm going to tell you right now, I would never let my small child or grandchildren go to a bathroom by themselves until they were like
Hmm.
10 or 12. It depend. I just wouldn't, because you know what? I hate to spoil the world view, but there are many female molesters as there are men,
Absolutely.
you know? So, suck that lemon. And so I'm not going to put my children in a place to be exposed to anything. And I'm not going to assume that you're more dangerous because you have a penis than she is because she has a vagina. I've seen her. She's mean. She's dangerous.
Well, and as a single mom, my son didn't want me going in the bathroom with him by the time he was 4 or 5. No, but I stood right there by that door.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
until they
The-
came out.
And I explained to my son, it's a safety issue. It's a
Mhm.
safety issue, you know? So now which rabbit hole are we in? I need to
I
come
don't
up
know.
No,
there.
it's still about like controlling the narrative.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Mind control is when you control the narrative, then you control the minds.
You did all the initials a while ago. Is there a new initial? What's the A? Did you say A?
Mm,
LGBTQ, what else?
QIA
Plus.
plus,
QIA plus.
queer, intersectional, and asexual.
Oh, intersexual and asexual. I didn't know those two.
Yeah.
Is it necessary to have all those? I mean, can we just say unique and euphonious instead?
I think and again, this is a conversation inside of the queer community. Okay. It's like, okay, so gay, lesbian, and bisexual kind of encompasses everything. And then it goes into the, the pronouns and how you identify your sexuality or how you identify yourself inside of the community. Okay. Gay, I believe, is one of those things that, okay, well, it's men to men, lesbian, is women to women, bisexual is both. Okay. LGBTQ, queer, intersexual, asexual, I think everybody just wants to be noticed and wants to like have their name out there. I mean, come on, there was a big thing like 20 years ago about the flag. And well, what colors are we going to put on the flag? The flag that you see now, that represents gay pride, okay, not the same flag. Why? Because we had a revolt in the gay community because we couldn't agree on the colors and what they meant.
Well, I
So
took the rainbow back personally. I bought a shirt the other day that said always proud. I'm like, that's me. I'm always proud because I'm always growing. I'm always learning. And I put it on and my husband goes, well, have you picked up a new nonprofit to support? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, why? He goes, always proud. And then he goes, those are rainbow colors. That's a gay shirt. I'm like, screw it. I don't care. It's mine now. This is a Deborah shirt. I'm not trying to be honoring and I'm not trying to be, have blinders on. I'm just like, why does everything have to be so dramatic and so defined and so intense? Why can't it just be unicorns and bubbles once in a
right.
while?
Well,
You
Deborah,
know?
you're not trying to control something. That's the key here is you're not trying to control something. Okay. If you were trying to control something, then you might have a problem wearing that rainbow t-shirt. Okay. If someone's trying to control something, they would definitely have a problem with you wearing that t-shirt.
Well, that's what I
Okay.
was going to say. The other side of the coin is they're trying to control me by saying I can't wear rainbow colors.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, I'm a hippie from the 70s. I will wear rainbow colors, you know.
Yeah, but that the whole conversation around, about mind control and things like that, it's about controlling the conversation. If you control the conversation, you can control people, period. End of story.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
goes for lobbying, that goes for medications, that goes for LGBTQIA plus community. I mean, that goes for drag queens. I mean, it goes for everything.
This is what's been happening in China since day one.
Mhm.
They have manipulated the people who live there through mind control. I mean, you talk to anyone who comes out of China, Vietnam, Korea, North Korea, and it's what they believe because that's what they've been told.
Well, and again, that goes back to class, of races, and of wealth, the caste system in India,
Mhm.
different things like that. I mean, again, that's all about brainwashing people to think a certain way. Because let's be honest, it's not like in our country history with slavery that white people knew they were wrong. They just ignored it. They really thought they were in the right.
Yeah.
They really thought they were the preferred people. They really thought that other races were inferior. They believed that. And there were science papers and books and studies going back to the 1700s and more that supported this line of thinking. Now, that's the ultimate in brainwashing. perpetuating this over generations over generation. And okay, so let me go there. I'm going to go there. Isn't that kind of what's going on in Israel right now?
No,
You know?
it really is. I mean, and I was listening to a commentator the other day that was talking about the whole issues that are going on, and they said the whole issue that is the conversation about my religion is the right one. Okay, it's not even brought up as a conversation around, okay, we're human beings doing this to other human beings. That's not the conversation. The conversation
No.
is that I'm right about my religion, you're wrong, and then vice versa.
Well, I have to be completely frank. I don't understand all of the issues that are going on with Israel in
Yeah, I don't
in
either.
this situation. But at first glance, I was having a conversation with my grandkid the other day, and they're like, "Are they just saying that no one can live there unless they're Jewish?"
Mhm.
Oh,
Pretty much it.
oh,
But they've been manipulated for so many years and forced to relocate, and the territories that were larger are now smaller, and then where they were separated at one time, now there's like a small little thing in the center with all the other group be around it. I mean, it's horrible, and I actually have friends that are on both sides of this. I have a friend from Egypt that is like so much of like, no, get the Jews out of there. Okay. But again, it's the conversation, because that's his narrative. But then again, I have, my Jewish friends, are saying that, the Muslims shouldn't be there because they don't deserve it. They don't, they aren't God's chosen people to be in that area, period.
well,
So, I get it from both angles, but again, it comes down to the conversation.
here's
We're not
my
looking at it
question.
as what is so. We're looking at it as like, oh, I'm a Jew, or I'm a Muslim, or I'm a pagan, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. Hell, I could be a fruit fly for all that matters.
Well, my question is that if you can buy the land and you can pay for it, how come you can't live there? You
Mhm.
know? And I put up, I didn't put it up. I shared a meme on Facebook the other day, and my husband called me and goes, "Please take that down because someone's going to get in your face over that because it's going to be misconstrued." And it was a picture of a Native American saying, "Oh, you're telling me that if my land was taken away from me, I get it back?" And I shared that because I thought it was a good point. And Scott Conley goes, you hate Facebook fights, take it down because you're going to get a fight if you don't.
Well,
Mhm.
So I did.
I had a friend that I mean posted a meme that he thought was hilarious. Okay, I thought it was really really funny, and it was a bus, but it was celebrating the anniversary of Rosa Parks. Okay, her face was on the back of the bus, and
Oh,
the
good
meme said,
Lord.
"Yeah, still on the back of the bus."
Oh,
Ah,
okay.
And they
That's
thought it was funny, and I was like, no,
no,
no, that's
that's
just
not.
inappropriate." And they're like, "Well, I don't understand why."
it's hateful. No, it's not inappropriate. It's hateful. And that's another thing. I think we need to start calling things out. I'm so tired of hearing the word inappropriate. No, some things are just shitty. They're
Yeah.
just downright shitty and they're ugly and they're hateful. Okay. And I am tired of being manipulated on that word because on one hand, people will do things that are really hateful and say, oh, well, it's maybe in bad taste, but it's okay. No, you're not a paid comedian. Paid comedians can get away with certain things that we don't get away with in day-to-day life. And,
Sometimes they
and that,
can't get away with it either.
Mm,
well, no, and in fact, one of the comedians I really like is really getting his head handed to him, or they're trying to. He didn't give a shit. Matt Rife,
mm,
he made a joke. It was it was questionable. I will go there. It was questionable, but if you go with the idea that it's free speech and it's comedy and it's making people think, and by saying inappropriate things, you're making people think about the true issue. I get where he went from. I actually found one of his other jokes to be more offensive later on in the show. But everyone is saying that he's this horrible misogynistic guy because he was talking about the waitress having a black eye. And he says, well, you know what? He goes, maybe, something's going on, but they should put her back in the kitchen so that she's not out front for everyone to see because that's upsetting. But of course, if she could cook, she probably wouldn't have a black eye. That's what he said. And people are losing their shit over this, just losing their shit. And I'm like, okay, boy, where's Sam Kinison when you need him?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? The comedians from the 80s and 90s just would not do well now. They just wouldn't,
No.
you know?
But what happens when you know that you're listening to a comedian who makes fun of everything and everybody, and all of a sudden you're offended that he said something funny about somebody else?
Well,
Or
I
you,
personally
or
say it's free speech, and I bought this ticket, and I can either get up and leave, or
Right.
I can sit down and say, this is 2 minutes of a 60-minute show. Am I going to put him on a cross for 2 minutes? I don't have to
I'm
like
gonna
every
say,
joke. I
yeah,
don't have
they're
to agree
trying.
with every,
Well,
know.
I'm gonna say they're a comedian. They're trying to be funny. I didn't find that particularly funny, but most of the stuff he does is really funny, or she does.
No, I
But it's
think
our
I'm funny all the
reaction. You know,
time.
it's like we can only react here, and it's just like, why, some person might have found that like insanely funny. I would not have. And apparently Deborah did not, or I mean, it's just like one of those things that,
No, I
I mean,
caught my breath. I went,
it was like, but still, I mean, we're responsible for our reaction to that.
well, the thing about it is I found a joke he was making about a kid that he went to school with really offensive. I was totally offensive. It was about a special needs kid, and no one has made any comments about that joke at all. And I'm like, okay. I mean, he's a very edgy guy, and he's known for being able to take things and work a crowd and not use prepared material. Super intelligent person. So does he hit a home run with every joke? No. Uh, and I, of all people, am not going to lose my shit over stuff like that unless I think that they are promoting action. Like Andrew Dice Clay was, his career was ruined because people felt like he was calling misogyny and active of hate of homosexuals in his comedy, and there were people that were actually acting upon his jokes. Well, he lost his career over that, rightly so, because he would not stand up and say, look guys, this is a joke, don't go out there beating up homosexuals,
Yeah.
don't go home and tell your wife she's a bitch. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't own that. He was so into his characterization, but that's not what's happening here. And I am so afraid of losing the ability to free speech. It freaks me out when I see stuff like that. Whether I agree with it or not, I think they have the right to say things. You have the right not to listen. That's the bottom line.
Right. If you're going to complain about something on TV, there's a controller that either switches the channel or turns it off.
Yep.
And it's the
Well, that's
same
exactly
thing.
what I did. I had to put the movie or the his Netflix special on pause, and I couldn't go back to it till a couple of days later. And I'm like, no, I'm going to finish this. I want to hear the rest of this. I can't have an opinion if I don't know what's going on.
Right.
So I think he did 2 bad jokes in an hour stint. That's the bottom line. He's 28 years old. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to grow in his comedy,
Yeah, because his picture of the world is a lot different than it will be in 25 years.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And he comes from a very strange and very traumatic past. I mean, like he talks about how he and his stepfather bonded over porn,
Oh,
and
God.
this is his real life experience though. And he's talking about it, and so he puts a spin on it, but he makes people think. And I think that's what comedy's all about, making people think, making people think.
I think so too. But is
But
it discernment on our part?
well, okay, so Joe Coy is another comedian that I like,
Mhm.
and he teaches people how to recognize different Asian types by the way they talk. I don't run up to people going, "Oh, I know you're from Vietnam," because you go, "Blah, blah, 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 blah," and
Yeah.
I know you're from Japan because you go, "Oh, like you've been smoking pot
Oh,
all day long." That's his gag. That's his routine. You take information and you put a value on it. And hopefully comedy does two things. It makes you laugh, and then it gives you room to think and how you fit into that, you know. And if you're mimicking people, then you're not being authentic to yourself. That's the way I look at it. So, golly, we covered a lot of territory today.
We did, but it all comes back to a narrative. It comes back to like how that narrative can control. I mean, anywhere from comedy to drugs. I mean, so
Yeah.
I mean, I think that actually I think that this episode here was we were actually more on track with kind of the topic than just like completely going off, off kilter and talking about something other complete different topic, So.
Oh, so we're improving. I like that. Matthew says
I
we're improving.
I think we are. I think we are improving.
Well, I think the subject today was a little deep. I mean, you can go a lot of different ways with mind control, and you can go to the conspiracies, and you can go
Mhm.
to the positive things that happen where somebody's trying to control a machine.
Yeah.
So, or is it?
Or is there even a machine? Is that just something we have come up with in our heads and it doesn't even exist? You know?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are we living in the Matrix? You know?
Yes, I think we are.
Yeah, I love all these new YouTube things that are coming up where it shows a glitch in the Matrix where something is out of kilter
Mhm.
or it switches, or like there's one where this woman's cats, no, her chickens, it was her chickens actually stood still and did not move, and one even had its foot up for 2
Mhm.
minutes, stuff like that. You're like, ooh, do 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 do.
Well, doesn't the inquiring mind, whether it's yours, mine, or somebody else's, don't you need to kind of consider that conspiracy? What is that the way I believe? Is that something that's out there? Is that, do we need to dismiss that? I mean,
Well,
that's what
here's
I
what I
do.
tell my kids. My kids are both big conspiracy theory fans, okay? And they come up with some stuff that makes my head just explode because of the thought levels and the intensity and the layers involved and everything. But here's what I tell them. I'm like, what can you do about it? Let's say that everything you're saying is true. Let's say that's exactly right. Let's say the world is flat and we've been lied to. Let's say that we didn't go to the moon, we've been lied to. Let's say all of that crap is true. How does that change your day-to-day life? It doesn't. So I treat it as entertainment. That's what I do. And if I want to like get a little drunk, have a little bourbon and coke and say, let's talk about some deep shit, then that's what I do. But I mean, unless it's going to be something that you can personally change or affect,
Or
what's the
experience.
point of letting it worry you
Mhm.
or being obsessed with it? That's my thought. That's my closing thought. So don't worry,
I
be happy.
I agree. I mean, where I have changed a lot of worry in my life because of the same thing. Why are you worrying about that when that's beyond your reach? When that's beyond, the only thing you can do is change you,
Mhm.
either the way you think or the way you act. I can't change the other person.
Well, this shows how much I've grown and matured in this arena because as a child, I used to think if I had a photograph of someone in my room, that I'd have to turn the picture around or turn it down because they could watch me get undressed. So I knew about Big Brother long before I could even read.
Mhm. Well, I'm a firm believer in that you create your own reality. And,
Yep.
so it's how you react to things. It's about the conversations that you let in and the conversations that you have. So, I mean, that's kind of my philosophy. Do I have specific, thoughts about, mind control? Yeah, I do. But mine always goes back to the narrative. What narrative are you allowing in? I mean, because I could very easily, be on that train of, like Trump is still in the White House and, Biden is like just being controlled and manipulated. But I don't go that direction,
No.
I don't entertain that conversation. So therefore I'm not controlled by it. And if someone tries to come to me and tries to feed me that, I'm like, I'm not interested in having that conversation. I'm not interested in entertaining that narrative. So, and I guess that's, I guess that's neither good nor bad because, I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to control the narrative.
Well, so
But
I'm going to make this my closing statement, and then you guys can say what you want to. My bottom line is that instead of trying to cram things down my throat to make me say things a certain way, why don't you look at my intention and my heart and have a little grace and a little forgiveness if I don't use the words that you want me to use, if I don't come across as understanding where you're at. If I don't understand, help me to understand. But don't accuse me of being biased. Don't accuse me of being heartless. Don't accuse me of not caring. Because the fact that you're still standing there talking to me is proof that I care. Otherwise, I would have walked away. That's the bottom line.
I will take and mimic that one. I mean, I think that that's perfect. I can only manage this right here. That's all I can.
Exactly.
I can't manipulate you. I can't control you as much as I try. The only thing that I can say, and Luann, you said it too, is this right here. That's the only thing that you can manage.
mhm.
Okay, so with that said, it's kind of like you're part of the glitch in the Matrix because every time you move your hand, we can see your Whataburger cup. There's a Whataburger cup in the background.
There's like 5, so I mean,
But when you do this with your hand, it screws up the background blur. And I'm
yeah,
like, oh my God, that's so Matrix.
yeah, it's the
That's
Matrix.
why he
Yeah,
blurs the background so you can't see those 5 cups.
that's right. Absolutely right.
I love it. All right, Luann, what do you got to say to
Well,
that?
I'm willing to discuss conspiracy theories with you. Do you want to discuss them? That's fine, but don't expect to change my mind.
No.
I believe a certain way, and the way I believe is the way I believe, and I don't want to change. Uh, I really don't want to change somebody's theory or somebody's religion or somebody's politics.
Well, how can you have a hardcore opinion about any of this? Because there's no facts to back up
No,
anything. But you know what? If you're pouring the bourbon, I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about for as long as you want to talk.
I'm open for discussion. I'm just not open to change
Yeah.
unless
Yeah.
I feel that it's necessary.
That's
For
All
me.
fair.
right. I think we did a good job. I think we did a real good job with a real scary subject. So, all right, Luann, tell them where to find you, dear.
Well, you can find me at herbal-lou.com or herballou1105@gmail.com.
Why 1105? I've always wanted to ask that.
It was actually the street address to where I was living.
I
Oh,
got
well,
it.
there you go.
There you go. See, I knew there had to be a reason. All right, Dr. Pierce, tell them about you.
Well, you can reach me at www.matthewapierce.com. You can also reach me at www.metaphysicalevents.com. And so my email address for whatever is matthew@matthewapierce.com or matthew@metaphysicalevents.com.
Okay, and I do want to answer this question before we close off. Dr. Pierce is not here to supervise me. We do not have Dr.
No,
Pierce on the show because I need a keeper.
no.
Said that. Brought that up.
Somebody just said that jokingly, but I thought that was kind of funny. So anyway, I am Deborah Colleen Rose at investigativesolutionsgroup.com, isgu.com. We're a private investigation company. This show is here because of Miles and Smiles events, because we don't have enough to do in our life. And we hope that we're intriguing you, making you laugh, making you think. And if you like us, subscribe to the channel and tell your friends to join us. So we will see you next week.
Bye now.
Bye.